All right, let's try that again. Big waves to you. Good to see you. Get those hands going. I'm sorry, I was jumping the gun a little bit this morning. So happy Thursday, everybody. I was saying earlier, yesterday's attendance was amazing, and I want to tell you, this week I've used a lot of the words that we've looked at and studied and took to heart. So today, today's the word is interact, interact, and I want you to think about this. I don't know if it's when I talk about the word interact, maybe it's your spiritual walk, maybe it's your maybe it's the church you go to, congregation you go to, maybe it's your family interact, maybe it's your job, right? Think about the people that you talk to the most at your profession. Maybe it's your organization, right? So I want you to think about that, because that's kind of the way I looked at it this morning when I was looking at the word interact. And so if you look at the definition, it's to act upon one another, to act upon one another. All right. I think we all know what the word interact is. But I came across this quote by Margaret Heffernan, and she stated this. She said, for good ideas and true innovations, you need human interaction. Sometimes you need conflict. Sometimes you need arguments. Sometimes you need debates for great innovation to take place. And when I looked at this quote, I really thought about our history, and I thought about how amazing things happen, right? Amazing things in life that we all would be able to talk about, that's happened in our world, that's happened in our lifetime, that was just amazing. And you go, how did that happen? And I go back to the word interaction. It had to be through interaction. It had to be through conflict, probably some argument, some debate. But at the end of the day, it was people getting together and willing to interact as humans. And sometimes the world we live in doesn't, we try to send a text message, or we try to send a telegram, or we try to send a Voxer, or we try to private message somebody. And I love Zooms, but sometimes, let me ask you a question. Whether it's Zooms or whether it's personal face-to-face, go over to somebody, get with a group of people, are you in your life right now interacting in that manner? And here's what I mean by that. If there's something that maybe your organization needs to talk about, are you scheduling a Zoom and having some interaction with just a group of people? Or maybe it's some family members, right? Or maybe it's that you call them together and you go have some eggs and bacon and grits with butter and sugar, Will, and have some interaction over food. Food always fits with interaction. But that's where I went this morning, and I asked myself, what stops us from interacting like effectively? And first is when you're stressed and you're out of control and those emotions are flowing. It's tough, right? How many of you would agree with that? Maybe raise your hand or put something in the comments, And I know this for me, when sometimes if I'm stressed and have some out of control emotions, I'm putting the vibes off. I know the people around me can feel it. So that stops, that puts a halt in interaction, right? The other thing is lack of focus. Like you can't communicate effectively when you're multitasking. Like it's just hard to communicate effectively. So if I were to pull 3 or 4 of you on a Zoom right now and start to talk through some interaction, like some things we could improve on, And some of you are on your phone and you're Googling stuff and it's hard to come up with some type of innovation. It's hard to create something beautiful when we're all having a lack of focus. So we got to focus for interaction to take place. Good interaction. The other one is inconsistent body language. Inconsistent body language. Like, how many of you know people that have some like massive nonverbal communication, right? But here's what I mean by that. You know, if you say one thing, but your body language says another, it sends these crazy questions. Like, have you ever had that before? Where you're talking to somebody and they're nodding their head and they're agreeing with you, but they're almost looking through you, like to the other side. You're like, this person's not even in the world, right? It really affects that interaction. And the last one is negative body language. If you disagree or dislike what's being said, you know, there's a negative language in you that the person on the other side of the group of people can feel. So the reason I brought these up was, in my part, was kind of because Andrea is going to, talk about being more of an engaged listener. But I really believe whatever it is, I go back to, is it my church? Is it my spiritual walk, like with the group of people? Is it my my family, the interaction there? Is it my profession? Like, how can I look at today and go, you know what? I'm going to take the word interact and I'm going to set up that Zoom with that small group of people and work through some things and interact with them. Or I'm going to set up that little Saturday morning breakfast with this group of people to work through some things where we can flourish, where we can grow, where we can innovate, where we can make things better. Because human interaction, getting together, is where all great ideas and all great things come from. So, Andrea, I know you've got some things on that, so I'm going to turn it to you and let you roll.
Well, thank you, Coach. And you did step on my toes on a few spaces there. So I guess this was a lesson that I needed. But the quote that I found that I really loved was, every human interaction offers you the chance to make things better or to make things worse. And that's Barbara Brown Taylor. And I don't know about you guys, but I've sure seen that, where I'm sitting down and, maybe I have a plan for this interaction. And I'm thinking in my head that we're going to resolve something or get somewhere really positive, but it goes like it completely goes in a negative direction, not where I was trying to go. And you kind of have to pause and go, okay, where did I screw up in that one and what could I have done better? So today I'm going to talk about what we could do better in those moments. So first of all, be that engaged listener that Brent was talking about. So focus on that person that's speaking. I know we're all tempted, right? These little guys right here are designed to tempt us. It's a little bit more than that, but we can talk about that another day. But they are designed to make our attention constantly divided. So do what you need to do to turn it off, right? Take off the watch if you have one zapping you every time. Turn off the alerts, flip it over. Do what you need to do so that you're not dividing your attention. Avoid interrupting the other person. Anybody guilty of that? Anybody right here, right here? So do your best not to interrupt or redirect, because if somebody has a goal for the conversation and you keep throwing in your little side goals, then it's going to make it so that you're getting off track and they're not feeling listened to. Show interest in what's being said. So do that positive nod, right? Even if you don't agree, you're like, I hear you. Say those, those worthless words. They're not worthless, but they're nonsense. Like, yeah. Like just those little words to show that you're engaged in that conversation, that you're actually paying attention. You're not the person that Brent was talking about that was nodding, but they're not there anymore, right? And then provide the feedback. So as they're talking to you, it sounds like you're saying, or what I hear is, but just kind of reiterating what they're saying so that they know that you're truly acknowledging. And then do your best to set aside that judgment, because you might be hating every word coming out of their mouth, hating it. But if it's valid because they're saying it, right? It might not be true, but there is some validity. So do your best to set aside that judgment, and then you can work on, how to get back to a place that you agree in a little bit. And then 2, pay attention to those nonverbal signals that Brent was talking about. So what is their body language telling you? And if you're ever having a conversation with me, you'll know, because everything that I feel is right here. I have no poker face. So sometimes that can be really great, and a lot of times it can be really awful. So just pay attention to what those nonverbal cues are, and then keep that stress in check. Because when we are frazzled to the limit, like we've all been there, when we're super frazzled, it's really hard to have a positive interaction. So kind of going back to what we talked about yesterday, use that pause button, right? Pause it. It might have to be a longer pause. You might be able to get away with a shorter pause, but pause if you need it. Work really hard when you're stressed to stay on topic. I don't know if you guys ever bring up the kitchen sink in your harder conversations, but you're like, well, this and this and this, and you're pulling in all this other stuff that you just need to resolve the first one, and then we can work on the other ones when we get to it. But let's work to stay right on topic right here. And then look for the humor, right? There's always something funny, right? If we fight for it, we can always find something funny in the situation. Maybe don't share it out loud, but work to find it. Be willing to compromise or agree to disagree if you need to. Work to relax your own body language, and then summarize your thoughts and stop, right? Any ruminators out there? I always throw myself under the bus, but if you're a ruminator, right, where you're like, I want to work this out verbally in 47 different ways, you might bore the other person to death, or you might irritate them too. So do your best to share your thoughts, summarize them, and then end your portion of the conversation. And then lastly, if need be, assert yourself. Realize that you are a valid participant in this interaction. You're there for a reason. And so your opinion does matter. So you might need to sit up and speak up a little bit more than maybe is comfortable for you. Be respectful, even when you're angry, and then work really hard to learn to say no. Because as we've talked about before, sometimes the best yes is a big old fat no. So love you guys. And real quick, before we close down, I just wanted to send out a little prayer request. We have a dear friend with a family member that is very, very sick. His name is Kevin. And so if you guys wouldn't mind just sending out some prayers of healing and a speedy recovery, and that we can get him back home very quickly. So thank you so much. Love you guys. And I'll hand it back to you, Coach.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. And so this person's on here this morning. We're praying for your brother Kevin, and so prayers going up. And guys, we appreciate you. And this interact was a great word today. And so as I go throughout the day, I'm gonna think about myself. I'm think about how I'm interacting with people. We love you. We appreciate you, Andrea. Thank you as always, coming in, sharing the word. And Coach Myra will be back with us tomorrow to finish out the week. And can't wait to see you here. So love you guys. Have a great day. God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea.